Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're taking apart the world of Star Wars Lego brick by brick.
Today we are discussing Lego Star Wars Lego or Lego Star Wars. I can't remember.
Whatever you like.
Whatever it is Rebuild the Galaxy Part 1. This episode had its Disney Plus debut on September 13th, 2024.
That's right.
We were not the wee boys.
No, we weren't. We were elderly. Yeah. Yeah.
Aging.
Old men. Happy New Year to you, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, Happy New Year. Yeah.
I'm excited to be getting to this because I have been wanting to watch this. My son has been wanting to watch this. And when we finished this, he was like, oh, let's watch the second one. And I was like, no, the sanctity of the podcast, we have to wait. And he was not pleased. So he's all in. He's all in.
Well, that comes from a generation of, the Netflix, the entire
That's
show.
Right. Keep streaming, keep going.
You're like, you have no idea. You have to wait for a whole week.
I know.
Come on,
I know. That's why I am enjoying this weekly drop kind of coming back into our lives. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I've missed it, and I'm glad that it's back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today's episode is written by Dan Hernandez and Benji Sannett and directed by Chris Buckley. So Rebuild the Galaxy also had several actual Lego sets that were produced based on this. There's a very cool Millennium Falcon that I still want. I was hoping to get it for Christmas. Didn't happen.
Oh, is it the black one?
It's the black one, yeah.
That's what that's from. Okay,
so
it is.
Cool.
Okay, so we're going to see it. All right. Okay, yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah,
but my son got the Jedi Bob Starfighter. Kind of looks like an A-Wing or like Obi-Wan Kenobi's ship from Attack of the Clones.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's a neat set. So our cast for this includes Gaten Matarazzo as Sig, Tony Revolori as Deb, Bobby Moynihan as Jedi Bob, Mersai Marty as Yessi, and Michael Cusack as Servo. We have a couple of classic voices returning here. We only heard a little bit from them, but I think we're going to hear more. And this time we heard Mark Hamill back as Luke Skywalker, and of course, Anthony Daniels as C-3PO.
There is no other. Who else?
No.
He cannot die.
No. I was looking at Anthony Daniels' IMDb, and it's like the man has not stopped voicing C-3PO. It's like every year, like 1977. It's like an unbroken streak. There's like some C-3PO thing has to happen every year.
Crazy.
I know.
It's gonna be so weird when he doesn't.
I know.
And we are going to hate it.
True.
Like there's no, knowing me, myself, I'm going to hate it. Only
Probably.
Because I'm gonna hear it, know it, and I'm just gonna know that it's.
Well, it was kind of like we were saying in the Life Day special, that Yoda voice. It was just like.
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
So it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough when the day comes where we have a non-Anthony Daniels C-3PO.
So I have a Gaten Matarazzo.
Yeah,
he lives very close to me.
Really?
Like 2 towns over.
Wow, just a couple of Jersey boys, you and Gaten Matarazzo.
So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, our featured cast member today is Bobby Moynihan, who stars here as Jedi Bob. He's best known for his long run on Saturday Night Live with sketches like Drunk Uncle and, of course, David Pumpkins. He's also done a ton of voice work, including the Inside Out movies, Monsters University, Star Trek Lower Decks, Nature Cat, lots of things that he's showing up in. Jedi Bob has kind of an interesting history. He first appeared as an unnamed Jedi in a 2002 set called Star Wars Republic Gunship. And it was just a random Jedi that they tossed in there, and people started calling him Jedi Bob, and then that kind of stuck. And he was given a name formally. Yeah. In the 2009 Visual Dictionary, identified him as Jedi Bob. So now he's like a full-fledged character. He was just a Lego extra, and now like Jedi Bob is a thing. So it's funny when that happens.
When I looked up Wikipedia stuff on this, because I was like, I'm just curious what like Wikipedia has to say. It was very clear. There were like black banners everywhere. This is not canon.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Just in case. Yeah.
I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest. This was not weak. This was fun.
I was pretty entertained. I liked it visually, and yeah, but let's do it. Tell me the story.
All right. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, this is the uber detailed plot of Rebuild the Galaxy Part 1. A pair of nerf-herding brothers, Sig and Dev Griebling, both struggle to find their way in the galaxy. Sig struggles with his place in the galaxy, especially on boring old Finessa, and Dev struggles to get off the boring old planet. Sig is happy telling other people's stories rather than making his own. Dev is set on getting Yessie, their boss's daughter, to go with him away from Vanessa. The next morning, the two brothers struggle to round up a herd of nerfs. Dev tries to take a shortcut by rounding them up with his speeder bike, but fails miserably when he crashes it. Dev is launched from his speeder dangerously, but Sig reacts, and nearby leaves and branches are whisked together to form a cushion, which Dev safely lands on. Dev is more interested in learning of Sig's clear force abilities rather than the fact he almost got seriously hurt. Later that day, the two brothers are transporting supplies when they are caught in an ion storm. Sig saves them from ion strikes with his staff, but their nerf nearly falls off a cliff. They manage to save him, but in excitement, Sig's gonk droid, Servo, accidentally knocks itself and the brothers off the cliff. Surprisingly unscathed, they set off to get back home, but stumble upon a Jedi temple that Sig is successful in opening using the Force. His Force abilities are innate. Inside, Sig reads an inscription that says, "The temple that holds the galaxy together," something like that. I wrote it in quotes, so hopefully that's it. He reads that while Dev finds a shiny thing. Sig is intent on leaving the shiny thing where it is, better leaving it untouched. Dev goads Sig on, preying at his fears of reaching out and doing anything or being someone in the galaxy. Frustrated, Sig rips out the shiny thing using the Force. The temple begins to quake. A lone Jedi spots them, commanding them to get away from there, but is stunned to see Sig with the glowy piece. The temple begins to collapse, and they all run. Dev manages to escape, but Sig is delayed, helping his gonk friend. A bright light appears, but Sig is knocked out before he can see what happens. A ripple crosses the galaxy, changing and rebuilding every planet, every major event, and every person as we know it in the galaxy. Desert planets turn lush. Good changed to evil. Clone troopers changed to Akbars. What? At least that's what Sig discovers when he emerges from the temple ruins and is immediately detained by clone Akbar troopers. Suddenly, Sig's friend Yessie jumps in out of nowhere, subduing all the clone troopers with her sweet fighting moves. Unfortunately, she doesn't recognize Sig, as she's been sent to Vanessa to scout clone trooper movements for the rebellion. Yessie quickly discovers Sig as a lost Jedi, and the two set off to escape the planet. Vanessa is now controlled by clone troopers that fly X-fighters. So they're TIE Fighter X-Wings.
Yeah.
So everything's different now. And also, Sig spots Dev taken captive by troopers. Yessie tries to stop him, but Sig runs in and is captured by the troopers, only to discover his brother is not held captive, but is in charge of the troopers and is a Sith Lord referred to as Darth Dev. Sig thinks it's hilarious, but Dev uses his powers of evil to subdue both Sig and Yessie. Servo watches powerless to help his master and Yessie. Before running in fear, Servo backs into the Jedi, the one from the temple, who vows to save them. Roll credits.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a strong start. I think it's a really fun entry point, and I think it utilizes the Legos well. Like when you're seeing things be rebuilt and everything, like things are collapsing, you see all the pieces flying and then kind of coalescing back together in these different, like you said, the X-Wing TIE Fighter hodgepodge things. And I really liked the visuals. I liked the landscapes we were seeing at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of negative things to say about it. I thought this was just a fun adventure.
I honestly don't either. And it's funny. I thought when I first started it, I thought it did kind of start weak. I was like, it kind of just starts with them like zooming in and then like, hey, I'm going to tell a story. And I was just like, oh, really? Like what? But you later find out the significance of him just telling stories is because he's more comfortable telling other people's stories and not making a name for himself in the galaxy.
Yeah.
So I quickly was like, oh man, that is a great start.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of weak. And Dev points that out, that like, dude, you're weak. You just follow rules.
Yeah.
You don't do anything uncomfortable, and things like that. And it's, oh yeah, now he's, about to make a name for himself.
Yeah. It serves a dual purpose too, because I think you have to establish that he knows, like Sig knows Star Wars lore. You know, he knows like the Jedi lore. So when things are off and wrong, he's able to comment on it and know what's going on and all of that. So I
That's a
thought
good
that was
point,
pretty
too.
clever. You know what I mean? Because right away he's like, "Oh, you're Admiral Akbar." Like, how would some random dude know that? But he knows it because
Yeah.
he's like a nerd. You know what I mean? He's
Yep.
like, this is like he loves this history
He knows
stuff.
his galaxy history.
He knows his galaxy history. That's right.
Yeah.
I love in the beginning when he says, well, first of all, we had two Ewok things right up top.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Lego version of the Star Wars logo that plays before fun shows like The Acolyte. I don't know if you watch that, but before you have different Star Wars faces
Took me a second.
showing up.
Wish
And
I
in this
haven't.
one, Wicket was included. Did you notice?
Yep. I did
So
notice
that was cool.
It's funny. I always watch that. It's significant.
Yeah.
You catch little things, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that is, right? And then
Yeah.
the last one was Servo, and I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck is even that?
Yeah.
You know? And it goes gonk, and I was like, it doesn't really look like a trash can. He kind of looks
Right.
like his own, like a.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look like a gonk droid, but it's important. So if anybody's listening and you don't watch that, you need
Yeah,
to
it's
pay
fun.
attention.
There's a lot of little Easter eggs.
So,
But we
yeah.
had that. And then when he's telling the story, he confuses the Ewok and the Wookiees, saying that they teamed up with the Wookiees on Endor. And the other person's like, no,
Yeah.
that was Ewoks. And I thought that was kind of fun, too, because
Yeah.
that's also kind of a deep cut. Because, you know, originally they wanted it to be Wookiees. And we're like, oh, that's too much. So let's just do
Yeah.
you know,
Later,
Ewoks,
he got called out too. He's like, I bet you
Yeah.
messed up the Wookiees and Ewoks again,
Yeah.
didn't you? And he's like, what? How did you know? Oh man, come
Yeah.
on. You know, like it's like, oh, he must do it a lot.
Yep. So I was
Funny.
delighted to get a scene on Endor. I thought that was really fun. This episode, you know, episodes like this, I feel like, you know, it's almost like you have to watch the second episode right after it because this is so
Yeah.
much setup, you know, and sometimes episodes like that can fall really flat, but I didn't really feel like this one did.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought too.
It almost feels like a prelude or a prologue this episode
Yes.
does to the real show starting next episode. But even with that, I felt like it held up pretty well.
And it's funny that you thought that because I thought the same thing. Like when an episode finished, I was like, they really didn't do anything
No.
yet to like mess anything up. There wasn't anything that like I could point out that was like, oh, that was clearly a mistake. Or
Yeah.
I obviously can't be at this point like, oh, that's not part of the lore. Oh, that's not canon. Because
Yeah.
I'm just, oh, that's not the color of the Millennium Falcon. I don't like this show. And you're
Yeah.
like, Steve, that's
Yeah.
literally
That's
the
the
point.
Yeah, which is maybe kind of smart because anything
Yeah.
they do is kind of like, well,
Well, now it's pure creativity, right? And isn't
Yeah.
that what you did with your Star Wars Legos? My kids just got
Yeah.
more Star Wars Legos. They got my old Star Wars Legos for Christmas.
yeah,
So that was fun watching Camille build an A-wing from like the 90s.
yeah,
I mean, it is such a blocky A-wing.
yeah.
And you know the A-wing, there is not a straight line on
I
that
love
thing.
that
And
A-wing.
it is
I love it. It's my favorite ship.
yeah, it's so fast, fastest.
Yeah.
But yeah, like watching her build that thing, and then I just remember like building it and then immediately taking it apart and building my own after that.
That's cool.
You know, based
That's
on
cool.
it. So it's like this
Yeah.
is literally to show for all those people who built an X fighter, basically. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's great.
Well,
you know,
I
it's
think
creative.
some of the Legos too, like Servo, the little servo droid, the Legos that make him look like they are smudged and scratched a little bit. Like it looks like actual Legos that
Oh.
kids play with. Like if you look closely, it's like it's not just this perfect sheen. These are like played with Legos.
Yeah, you see the mold lines.
You do.
sometimes, like on
Yeah,
the hands.
kind of a
and
neat
stuff.
element. I felt like in there. I
Details
like too how
matter.
they kind of poked fun at things in when he was telling the story. He was like, you know, and then Palpatine came back, and Palpatine's like, the dead speak. Wow!
Yeah.
You know, and then they're like, and there's a new hero, Rey, who's I guess kind of a Skywalker. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
all that stuff that people.
They're all just kind of mocking themselves.
they're-
It's
yeah.
good. Disney can
Yeah.
take a joke. It's good.
Fun sense of humor. But I will say too, sometimes in this kind of thing where it's like you have new characters commenting on classic characters, the new characters don't really establish themselves at all. But I really felt like
Yeah, they
kind of the
don't
core
really.
four of the new characters, they don't just feel like frame or lens characters. They feel like actual characters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like Sig and Dev and Yessie, and they actually feel like, yeah, these are characters that we're going to be watching. It's not just an excuse to watch whatever is coming where they remix things.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that.
I think something that worried me too was how Sig was pretty good with his abilities. Right. And
Yeah.
They did kind of establish that he's like, oh, I've noticed that I can do things for a year. So it's like, all right.
Yeah.
the ability to anticipate, do things, do
Right.
natural abilities
Right.
enhanced, but like levitating things is not necessarily a natural ability for anybody. And so,
Yeah.
you know, at one point that did bother, like when he opened the Jedi Temple, that he just kind of like me, and then
Yeah.
things happen, and it's just like those are very specific things. Maybe that would have been an Oak of Arc, but I was just kind of like, I don't know, maybe the door just needed a force ability,
That's
to
kind of what
touch
I.
it, and then it
That's
just opened, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, I had to hold back on that one and be like, it is just a Lego show, so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like pick apart little pieces of it, even though it's
Okay.
Legos and I can.
We'll see.
But
I bet you will. Let's.
yeah, we'll
Let's. What is
see.
your real Oak of Arc? Tell me that. Let's
So
get
I
there.
just I think the the one thing that it just bugs me, because this is in other not Star Wars necessarily, but like in other science fiction with the Nerf drawn levitating cart. It's just like you have a levitating cart
Yeah.
pulled by an animal.
He's got to steer it. He's got to steer it. I guess.
Yeah, like all right, it's like having an iPhone made of cogs and gears and glass. Like it's what do they call it? Steampunk.
Steampunk. It's very steampunk. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's like,
Okay.
all right, but that was me finding something. I had to go
Yeah,
back
you did.
and be like, there's something, I gotta find something that I don't like. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, what the heck? Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, wait a minute, was the cart levitating
Yeah.
or was it on wheels? And it wasn't on wheels. And I was like, oh, I gotta point that out.
Okay. Well, thank goodness you did. Otherwise, it would have gone unchecked.
Yeah, what what about you? What about you?
I always have this pet peeve where a character is thrown into a crazy situation, and no matter how crazy the situation is, they keep expecting it to be normal. Like, it takes Sig so long to clue into the fact that everything around him is different.
Yeah.
You know, like when Yessi shows up and is like has all these fighting skills and doesn't recognize him, like it doesn't click in there that something's
the
changed.
Akbars,
Yes, the Akbars,
the
when he
lush
sees
planet
his
is
brother.
desert.
Yes. He sees his brother and he's not like, okay, let's figure this out. He's just like, Dev, it's me. What do you mean you don't recognize me? I hate that kind of thing. Like, obviously,
That's a good one. That's
obviously
good, yeah.
something is amiss. But I mean, that's such a trope. That's done so often. So, you know,
Yeah.
but that did stand out to me. What about your Ichiwawa moment?
So for me, there was a couple little things. Porkins is alive. Because
Yeah.
when Yessi was like, wait a minute, did the rebellion have you babysit me? Did Porkins tell you but Porkins put you up to this or something, she said. And I was like, oh, Porkins. I have a couple though. I really, really liked. I hate The Last Jedi, but I loved the throwback to the changed universe when the guy licks the ground and he's like, salt. And then everything gets rebuilt and he licks it again and he goes, pepper.
Yeah.
That, like, I audibly laughed at that one. I was like, that's
that was
good.
really funny.
Okay. What are you
Yeah.
going to do with crate? Because it's salt now. You got to make it pepper.
Yep.
And then the guy sneezes. That killed me.
Yeah.
So that was, well, what about you? What was your Ichiwawa? Ichiwawa.
I think I already kind of hit it, but it really was just the characters. I wasn't expecting the new characters to be as robust as they were, and I really liked the turn when he comes out of the ruins of the temple, and yes, he shows up and, you know, just like takes them all down. It's just a really cool moment, and it's a good demonstration that, like, oh wow, everything's different. But I really, particularly Sig and Yessi, I just really thought were cool characters, and I liked that.
Yeah. I wonder what we're gonna get. Speaking of those, like, we kind of have that core four, right? We got Yessi, Sig, Dev, and Bob.
Yeah.
But like now that Dev is evil, like I wonder how that works in the core four. Does he just become the antagonist now to the protagonists? And that's how he fits as like a fourth core character.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like, it kind of seems, which I'm okay with. I like that. Like, instead of just introducing a fifth character as an antagonist, they have one of the protagonists turn antagonist.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's clever writing. I thought that it was interesting. And, you know, even though some people might think that alternate universes are lazy writing, I'm really entertained, man. This was fun. And you're right. I really wanted to watch the next episode.
I know.
Because it rolled right into, like, it would have came so easy. And I was just like, oh, I can't.
I agree. I know.
Do it.
I know.
For the sake of the podcast.
That's right. Well, we are going to cover these rather than alternating as we typically do. We are going to do 4 episodes boom, 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 so we can cover it all. Because even like I was trying to think about like how many yub nubs I would give it, and I guess to answer my own question, I would high. I mean, it really depends on
It's high
how
for
it
me,
all
too, yeah.
ends. You know, because like this doesn't feel so much like an episode as it does like truly a part one. You know, like I wonder if they considered just releasing this as like a movie. You know, because with 4 episodes, you know, you're basically at a 90-minute mark. You know, with the 20 minutes or so. You know, I don't know.
Well, it's parts. It's parts. So I feel like yes, right?
Yeah.
If there were like 6 episodes or 10 episodes, it's like, oh yeah, this is clearly a show.
And they're not named episode. It's part 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's like,
so this is a movie. This is
each
really
one represents an act in a movie. So I don't know. I mean, right now, I think we're on track for a 5-star because I think it really was checking a lot of boxes. It's, you know, it scratches the Star Wars itch. It's fun. It's funny, but it did still feel like there were real stakes, that there was real adventure. So yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah,
I'm excited to watch it.
I was a 4.75 because I was like, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I really had to try hard to find something that I did not like. And even the levitating carts, whatever, man. Like, you know, I know I'm a stickler, but I just think it's funny to point that like it's a levitating cart being pulled by an animal. But
well, like, maybe it just levitates. Maybe it doesn't have any way to move. It just levitates.
I mean, wouldn't they just be able to push it then? Because it's way.
Yeah, I guess probably. Sure. Yeah,
that's lazy. Let's tie a nerf to it.
Yeah,
but yeah, this was just good, and you're right. I think it is. I think it probably was a movie because it flows like a movie. Because watching this, I was like, this felt to me like what Force Awakens was, something that like didn't really take itself too seriously, but really set these characters up for something very cool. And so hopefully we don't get a Last Jedi in the Last Jedi bomb in the next couple episodes, because I thought this set it up just like that. Like when I watched Force Awakens, I walked out going like, wow, that was awesome. Like Star Wars is back, you know, like, there's little things here and there, like maybe I didn't like, but like, wow, you know? So this was, to me, I was so wowed by this being so good. One, it's Lego. So my bar was pretty low, although the Lego movie I thought was pretty good. But yeah, like I don't know. This was a great idea to do an alternate universe for Lego of all things. It just works.
Yeah.
So all around, I think the creativity, you're right. The visuals looked good. The sounds were fun. It sounded like Star Wars. It looked like Star Wars, even though it was alternate. Mm-hmm. And this was good. I'm really excited about it. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go through all 4. And this is like the joyous version of going through the Droid show 4 episodes at a time.
Right.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's going to kill us.
My
but
gosh,
this is going to be exciting, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying
Me too.
This.
Let's see if the magic lasts, because next time we'll be back with Rebuild the Galaxy Part 2.
Part 2. All right. I'll see you then.
All right.
This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 9021 Here We Go, 90s Music Got Me Like, and previously on X-Men. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook at Endorian Life, and please rate, subscribe, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts.